to get off their darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view. You should grow feathers and see this too. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Clear sky.
Hey, hey, what's up, you guys? So here we are. My name is Zaid, and I am here with my brothers from other mothers, the ArtChimp squad. Okay, so with us tonight we have an eclectic band, and we have for you, we have. Okay, you know what? You should know these people by now. You shouldn't have to do any introductions of here. But you know what? I'm gonna go through it anyway with this. So let's say, how's it? Starting off with Daniel. How's it, great, Daniel?
Oh, it's great. How you guys doing?
Oh, no, all good, man, all good. One last cold front over here. But I believe you had a pretty hot weekend this weekend. Some crazy family stuff going on.
Oh yeah. Son's 6th birthday party was last weekend, so my voice is kind of hoarse because yesterday was the epic blowout with a giant beach ball the size of a car.
Wow, okay, we're going to talk more about that in a bit. But right now, we want to say how's it to my brother Paul of House Limgenco, because that's how it's pronounced. Paul, how's it going?
I am good. Every time you pronounce my name, it's like a little bit more of, we're a little bit closer because it's like your family every time you say it properly.
I'm practicing. I'm not going to lie. I've been digging deep. I discovered this thing called tajweed. You know, like where like the words come from the soul. You know, so just to get that Limgenco, you know, I've been working. So one day, I will be worthy. Paul, how you been?
I'm all right. Trying to stay healthy, drawing, painting, the usual.
And tonight you were saying that you're pushing yourself a little bit out of your wheelhouse, looking at a character that you actually have no love for at all. Want to tell us about that?
What? Yeah, that Lara Croft.
Oh,
no love for her.
Yeah.
Nobody likes her.
No.
The worst ever. Okay, so then of course we got Stephan. So Stephan, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know that you're puzzling at the moment with your allergies and not feeling all that well, but you're here with us hanging out. How have you been?
I've been good, except for the heat. We had, in the last 2 weeks, we had 2 power outage, one happening yesterday. But otherwise good. I've been working on my project. I'm completing some short gigs that don't pay the bills, but are fun to make for now. They will eventually. But it was really fun. And now I'm back on the saddle with my own projects, which I can't tell much more at this point, but I'll show stuff soon.
Well, I'm certainly going to try to con you into telling us a little bit about data, because that's how I do. But somebody who I cannot con simply because he is just the nicest uncouth person I've ever met, because he's the most couth person we all know. Mike Rooth, ladies and gentlemen. Mikey, how goes it?
Good, guys. Good to be back. I hope I sound okay. It's really noisy in here right now, but anyway, yeah, I'm happy to be here. Gonna have some fun.
Happy
Can
to
hear you
have
just
happy
fine.
to have you. So guys, here's where it's at, right? We were just discussing now this whole thing on the back end that apparently China has put an embargo on how many hours a day people can play games. Who was saying that?
I just read it on Instagram, and then my wife just confirmed on actual sources of
Yeah,
news.
it's not surprising. I mean, it's all about productivity and efficiency at work. And
Right. Yeah. I don't know what their esports attendance is like for China, but whatever it is, I guess it's going to go downhill.
It's actually interesting though, because there's so much of talk these days about things about mindfulness and all of that stuff. And not long ago, I tried very, very hard to justify the investment in the PS5, by saying that it's good for mindfulness and all of that stuff. Not that my justification worked, but I tried. So it's interesting to think that we're still in a space where entire countries are saying that, nah, guys, this isn't good. We are going to limit you to 3 hours a day. And there's other questions like, how do you actually police that? How does it work?
Oh, they have the ways. They have the ways, especially over there. A few. Well, it's almost a decade now. In France, they were debating, should we prevent people from accessing Facebook at work, Facebook and Twitter and stuff, because they had concerns that it would slow the productivity of employees and stuff like that. So it's something that runs around every society every now and then,
Didn't they? Didn't they find that something about how productivity actually didn't decline, but it actually was better with?
Yeah, that's why they didn't push it that far in Facebook, on Facebook.
It was
and Twitter in France at least.
It was like people needed a release or an outlet of some sort, and
yeah, it's like the cigarette break. It's the equivalent to the cigarette break from a few years back for those who were smoking.
That person, right?
I just find it remarkable though that the guys would go to the extent of identifying that, because what I know is that when it comes to passing a law, I don't know how it works in China, but over here in South Africa, there's a whole lot of consultation needs to happen. There's you really got to go through the process to actually get a regulation or something that they passed. So that means that there was some sort of like a hearing, some sort of public participation process, maybe a Senate vote or whatever the equivalent that they have there, to be nope, no one's allowed to play Crash Bandicoot.
I think it might be very unlikely that in China they consulted with the people. They just they just went you know what, we're just gonna ban it. That's it.
Yeah. I would
it's
have to,
Dazibao public announcement, papers on the walls. From now on, no more than 3 hours, or you get shot on site.
My God.
Yes, what is happening in China?
When I used to, it might not be that hard to pull in China on a technical aspect of things, because when I was supervising animation over there, back a long time ago in another life, a previous life, the situation on the Tiananmen Plaza and stuff like that, we all knew of. We all had seen the footage and stuff, and you would talk to people about that over there. And we already were using internet, and you could, to some extent, use internet over there, and you still can today, but nothing shows up regarding those events over there.
Yeah, it's a very interesting country.
Yeah, it doesn't, and some people, not in the way that the conspiracy theory people here would object to that, but over there they're just baffled. But what the translators and the animators that we were talking with, they'd go what are you talking about? We never heard of that. It's not even that they were trying to hide it, pretend they never heard about it, because somebody might be listening, somebody might be from the government, nearby, and so they would have to keep the act together. No, it was just that they were talking at us as if we were coming from another time and space. What the heck are you talking? And it's you get a chill in your spine when you get to experience that. It's really weird.
Yeah. And then after after you start talking about that, you have to like look around, see if anything is like anybody is watching you, if you're bugged.
You start to be for a little while. You start to be a little paranoid, but you know what? I was in my mid-20s. I was like, yeah, I'd be more scared now if I was going out, you know. But not because it got worse, but because you know, you get a sense of a different perception of time, of what you want to do with your life, and you certainly don't want to end it in a in a jail over there.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's like a worst case scenario.
There was something unrelated to the topics we're usually talking about here, but that's always an interesting story that not a lot of people realize how the system is over there. Shortly before I left for my assignment to go and supervise over there, I had heard in France that there was a company, a manufacturing company in China that was called Diamond something, and that was selling hardware tools like hammers, screwdrivers, and stuff. And that was a cheap brand. That was not really, you know, they would break easily, or they would get dull pretty fast, or whatever. And I get to Guangzhou. I get to the studio, and I take a break after a few days. You know, I go to the rec room or the bathroom, wash my hands and stuff, and I start noticing that the aluminum window frames has the Diamond brand on it. That the Roux has the Diamond brand. That the faucets have the Diamond brand. Everything, the doorknobs, you know, they have the Diamond brand. It's actually made a brand that's actually it's from the work that is produced by the people in prisons in China.
Right.
What?
Right.
It's actually manufactured items that are made by prisoners in China. So everything, like the window frames, the doorknobs, the faucets, you know, everything had that Diamond brand, and that came from there. So you go, oh my God, yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah. Yeah. There aren't a lot of things that are very surprising about there anymore. I guess when you start diving into certain things.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. It can get scary pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, that seems like it would be out of their kind of playbook. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm not surprised that's what's happening. And then the more you find out, it's like, oh, okay, this is why nobody's actually doing anything about it in the world.
Yeah, the pressure.
Yeah.
And you know what? When I moved from Tahiti to France, and I was getting my first jobs in animation, and then I would be assigned to China, I would get a letter from my dad, who was still in Tahiti. No internet, no for them, and he would send me a letter, like 3-4 pages, telling me, okay, you're gonna go to China, be careful, blah 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 blah, because he was kept informed. He managed to be informed on a lot of stuff. He was curious about a lot of stuff, but he tended to be also overly dramatic sometimes. So it's it was hard to separate what was, you know, you would have to take everything with a grain of salt. And
Right.
in one of the letters he wrote, he was like, okay, be careful, you're going to China, don't do anything stupid over there, because I don't want to have to pay for the bullet that you know they will use. I'm like, okay, you're going too far.
Yeah.
But
And I laughed at it because I was in my
Yeah.
20s and stuff. I'm like, okay, boomer. And then and then you get there a few years later, and you become aware physically, like for real, of a lot of stuff that you never hear of when you're in Europe or in Western countries. And you go, maybe, you know, there was something about what he said, and something he was expressing, at least, that was within the range of, you know, something that was reasonable. Like, okay, be careful, because you can never tell when it's going to go south.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. You know,
Yeah.
That's hardcore.
Yeah.
That's what makes democracy and living in a country where you can go and move freely, or almost more enjoyable every day.
Yeah.
Once you've been in places like that, You're like, yeah, yeah, man.
You can
I'm loving all this
Google
freedom.
this. There's this this still has nothing to do with video games, but in you can Google, like, there's this I guess this software tech company in Canada called Nortel, and they had a building in Ontario, I believe, and so this tech company, they decided to move out, so they vacated that building and they started gutting it, right, to kind of renovate or whatever this building, and they found like bugs, like tech bugs, like spy bugs, not actual insects. They found like bugs from China in like the walls and the ceilings and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
Great.
interesting.
I'm over here drawing. I'm over here
I'm
drawing.
actually, I'm actually like, what is going on? Because like I mean, a little while back, like I had one of those Huawei phones, and I was devastated. Like when I found out about the whole thing, like the ones were going to be Google and stuff, and
Yeah.
like I was like, why? Who's going to do that? Like like because the whole thing was the privacy issues and like the people, the guys in China, this is what they're doing. I'm like, who's going to do that now? But now what you
Yeah.
guys are telling me now, I'm like, hey, wait now. Maybe there was
Yeah.
something to all of this.
Oh, yeah, no, there's
Yeah, they're watching these,
ignorance is bliss, guys.
Yeah.
Telling you. Just for the record, though, everything said over here does not represent the views of Comic Con Africa or any of our sponsors. And it's just a little bit of light-hearted fun,
Yeah.
just between
Or-
friends. We love the
or
Republic.
Or mainland China.
Or mainland China. Yes, that's hectic, guys. That is hectic. Like that is hectic. I'm like, what? And I get
Yeah.
so many of my toys from there. They make such nice things there.
I think
It's
do
just
they
like
have lead
toy.
in them?
No, but as a country, as a human experience, though, I've met people there that, especially in the art community, people know of the OGs. They know of the old cartoonists, and they appreciate, because you can tell how much it's feeding their own creativity in ways that it's put in a grind and it comes out in a different way that we would use it. But those guys, they have access to that type of images and documents and information, and they appreciated it, and they are so eager to get more and more and more. And I'm surprised that the market of conventions has barely started over there. It's probably going faster than I know, but I'm surprised that it didn't pick up before that, because they've always been really interested in sharing views with fellow artists from all around the globe. They have a huge tradition of amazing, tremendous artists, not just for comics and entertainment purpose, but also more traditional artists that are just beautiful, that we never heard of. Every time I would go there, I would come back with a full case of books of illustrations and painters and stuff that we never heard of. And paper is heavy. And yeah, and it was always a treat. And I loved talking art with those guys. And there was also something really impressive, which is they would hire people on the spot at the bottom of the building who were just looking for a job. Those guys were either selling bootleg videos, DVDs, or the next day or the previous day they were picking up tomatoes in a field. And those guys would get hired on the spot, never held a pencil in their lives. And in a matter of weeks, they would understand movement and animation and overlap and anticipation and stretching and squashing characters and exposure sheets and stuff like that. And they would become certified, animators. Until there's no more work and they go back to doing something else, being a mechanic or whatever.
Right.
yeah,
But they probably get paid a lot more doing that, right?
yeah, and also you had the fans, you had the light, you had the AC, you had stuff like that. That
right.
working in the field or working in a warehouse storing cucumbers and tomatoes, you're like under the heat constantly. It's like things, yeah. And those guys would just the ability to adapt and to get it right away. That was just
Well, and you have to wonder how much unrecognized prior to that, like, potential got unlocked as well. Like someone who's never picked up a pencil before and suddenly thrust into the position where they're like an animation boot camp,
yeah,
and then they come out and maybe they're like, oh my god, I really love this, like it's kind of cool, I think.
Yeah,
But
nothing beats though. I must say, I've never been there because I refuse to go. I told my producer, I was like, I'm not going. If you go, I quit.
Where?
If you want me to go, North Korea.
Oh,
No, because there are production companies that would actually outsource to North Korea. There's a famous French Canadian cartoonist who actually made a book about his experience as a supervisor for animation over there.
He got out.
Yeah, no, he got out because he's living in a part of the capital that is actually it's a fortress. Like the rest of the population can't enter if they don't have the right documents.
Mhm.
That's where the hotels are. That's where you only get 3 hours of power outage per day. Yeah, and he was telling stories that would just leave you. No, it's like, oh, he's making that up. No, I had colleagues that went there and that confirmed all that he said. And then some. Like, for example, some animation studios, so-called animation studios, would be warehouses with those plexiglass, not plexiglass, but those wavy iron tiles that you have for a roof sometimes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
They make those of
yeah.
fiberglass, of translucent fiberglass, right? Sometimes. And people would be actually sitting on benches on dirt floor with a mirror between their legs and a piece of plexiglass for a table on their lap. And they would use the reflection of the light from the roof on the mirror to backlight their plexiglass
Oh my.
so that they could trace and do clean drawings of animation.
Wow.
Yeah, that was North Korea to you 20 years ago, guys. And they delivered. I mean, the quality was not great, far from it, but they delivered on time.
They were
and,
so hungry.
It was moving. It was moving.
Wow.
So yeah. Anyway,
Just yes, that's crazy. Like
We have it so well.
that's just what I'm thinking about. Like, the life experience. It's like, I mean, I complain that, hey, this sucks, that sucks, and why is this like this and all of that. But now I'm listening to stuff like that. I'm like, no, actually, it's not that bad here at all. Like, what?
yeah,
I mean, it's all
ahead.
comparative, right? It's like
Yeah, it's all relative. Yeah.
yeah, relative. Like what you based on what you experienced yesterday or whatever, it's not as bad, or it's so much better.
Yeah.
Like you live in this place, but then compared to the other person's grass, kind of thing, right? The grass is always greener, but not necessarily.
But not in North Korea.
Yeah.
Well, you know what though, the flip side of this coin is that sometimes I tend to be a little too extreme in my because of all all those experiences I've had that are still vivid in my mind. I tend to be a little too harsh with the people around me, and I tend to jump to the first world problem quote a little too fast, a little too quick.
Oh, I might be in
Like,
same
oh,
boat
come
a
on,
bit.
get over it, because I've seen things, dude. No,
or it's like, okay, this is what you guys are complaining about in this country. These other people are complaining about like much bigger problems.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, and I mean, back in those days,
Yeah.
I was for some reason I had an interest for all those social political issues. I still do, but I was also exposed to it with the French equivalent to NPR, the National Public Radio here in the US. So, which is really informative and keeps you aware of a lot of stuff, and then you can do your own research and stuff. For example, because I was going a lot, in China and stuff, I bought that book about a girl. It was a journalist, a French journalist, who went there to investigate on something else. He ends up taking a break on the way back home to a village where he hears about a woman who's asking the translator to talk to the journalist, and she says, okay, I want you to keep those papers and to wait for my daughter to come back from the fields, and I want you to translate those papers that she said I shouldn't destroy because I was using them to roll my cigarettes with. And she said, don't destroy those. I want you to read them. I want somebody to read them to you. I can't read. What do they say? And the papers, the girl was doing like, when you get punished in school and you have to write 100 lines of, like Bart Simpson on the blackboard and stuff. And the girl was writing, Mom, please let me study. Mom, please let me study. Mom, please let me study. Because she was going to school. She was doing good. But because they needed more hands on the fields, she was being sent back to the fields. And
Right.
she's in a region of China that is considered by the government undeemed of life, worth of living there, because it's too exposed to radioactivity. That's where they were doing the bombing test and stuff like that. And it's growing some weeds that they transform into some supposedly aphrodisiacs. So because there's a market, they're letting people harvest those, sell them for a few bucks, and then they sell them, and they're making millions out of it because somebody has a boner issue. Anyway,
Very good to say. Wait, sorry, so I have to ask. So they're getting radioactive aphrodisiacs.
yes.
That does
Yes.
not sound good. That does not sound like
Yeah,
a
to
good
get
idea.
I
gamma
know.
ray boners.
Sounds like a
Part of a
permanent
video game.
solution.
Yeah,
Probably
exactly.
ground up
It glows in the
scales
dark.
or something.
It glows in the dark. But this girl,
Close in the dark.
this girl turns out that she was really good at school and that she was trying to keep studying because she wanted to learn, because she wanted to get out of there, and she had to save on her own alimony for lunch to buy pencils. And that journalist wrote a book about the whole story of that girl, and after that they created a foundation. I will have to look for the link to the foundation because I think it still operates, and it actually helps kids like her to continue study, especially girls, to continue study, to go to school, to get a better life, and that was just something that was, anyway, far away from the video games.
Yeah, but still interesting.
Speaking of Link, no.
Yeah.
Trying to bring it back.
Yeah.
Nice.
And and that's why you're drawing Crash Bandicoot. Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that this is exactly the reason why we need video games, because like, I'm not gonna lie, listening to that whole story of and everything, it actually stressed me out. I feel like I need to go now and just pop on some Miles Morales and just beat up some gang members and stuff. They just feel better about the fact that there are little girls that can't go to school because somebody needs radioactive aphrodisiacs. Like, what?
Hey, you got a pitch for a movie there.
Yeah. So you shouldn't discriminate between what kind of charity you give money to,
Exactly.
You never know who you're helping.
Oh, you guys. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, try to
But
pick
okay,
it up from there, dude.
Watch. So, on the topic of video games, right? And this and that. So, what's everyone playing?
Is anybody
Zero.
playing?
Yeah.
Is nobody playing nothing?
I literally
Nobody
played
plays.
no video games at
Yeah,
all.
I don't. I create images for.
Same.
Yeah.
When
I
was a
create my own
kid-
fantasy. Yeah, no, it's actually, when you're having so much fun drawing and creating stories and telling stories and stuff, I don't have an interest for I tried, but I don't know.
For me, it comes down to time.
Yeah, it's time consuming.
Yeah, like I'll get sucked up into it, and then I'll never get anything accomplished.
Yeah.
I'm like an all or nothing person with all my like games, you know, collectibles and things. So I've intentionally cut it out of my life just because I would never get anything done.
Like I'm pretty sure that I only kept drawing from when I was a kid because my dad never got me a Nintendo or whatever. And then at some point when I was a teenager, I eventually bought a PlayStation, and that's how I realized how addictive they could be and how time consuming they could be. So that's the last console I ever owned, PlayStation 1.
You know, I probably got lucky. I played Pong. I played Shoplifter. I played those old, very basic pool games. And because they were not, I was not seeing the potential. It was not creative. It was just fun and relaxing. But number one, I was living in the most relaxing place in the world. Number two, I was creating my own characters. I was drawing stuff that was much more exciting than playing Pong.
Well,
I didn't have an interest. You know, I didn't have an interest in those things, and I probably, I mean, there was Space Invaders and, you know, Galaga and stuff like that. But same, after a while, it's like, okay, it's about skills, but guess what? I got a set of skills of my own, and the result is entertaining to a lot more people than if they were just watching me play a game.
Yeah.
You know?
So basically what we're saying is that a career of art equals you will never play video games again.
Yeah, a career
Pretty much.
a career in video games is not playing any video games.
No, I mean that's true. Like my video game interests, like outside of arcade games that I love, really were just wrestling games. Like I loved all of the Nintendo 64 wrestling games, THQ games, and No Mercy, and all these games. Like I'm a wrestling guy, so I love the evolution of all wrestling games. So like going back to the 80s arcade, like Mat Mania, you know, with all the fake WWF guys with different names and different looks, and you know, and then moving all the way up to the super hyper realistic stuff. But I actually, like when my career took a more serious turn, my last system is a PS3, but I only got the PS3 because I could run Netflix off of it. I actually played PS2 games. I play mostly PS2 games. That was the last system I bought for gaming, I would say. Because like I just download from the PlayStation Network like PS2 games that I loved because my console won't play the actual physical discs. But so for me, I just love, like, once in a while I'll throw on a game called Fire Pro Wrestling, which is like it's an import. It goes back to like Super Nintendo. Actually, I used to rent it on the weekends from the game rental place where I grew up for Super Nintendo way back in the day. And I love it because it's not like a mash keys fighting game. It's a little more strategic, and I just always enjoyed it. And so I play that maybe once a week for about maybe 40 minutes. I just kind of get a little fix of ultra violence and then go back to my drawing table, because the reality is I don't have time. And I actually had a friend of mine years ago who was just breaking into Marvel, and he said, one of the key notes he got from his editor or his art director at the time was, if you're going to work in the studio with these guys, make sure you don't have an Xbox, make sure you don't have any video games, because you'll get nothing done. And I'll be honest, like when I stopped making video games a more serious part of my day, because I was I got pretty crazy into collecting, like, the Japanese versions of the American wrestling games even, and just like learning that system, and just really, really got into like the kind of this weird niche of Japanese wrestling game for Nintendo. I spent a lot of time developing characters and building whole things, and just that was a really creative outlet for me. But when I wanted to start, really taking a serious turn with my career and actually trying to survive doing this and maybe build a life around it, I just stopped playing and stopped updating my systems, and I've missed out on probably 15 generations of wrestling game updates now. But that's okay.
Japanese versions of US wrestling games, that's pretty uncouth.
Yeah, like there was No Mercy was the big game for Nintendo 64, and they never actually have a version of that in the Japanese, but they do have they have one called Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, which is as close as it gets, and it actually has stuff that No Mercy didn't have, but has a couple things that No Mercy does have. And you could make, like, there was room to make up 500 characters, and you could literally customize a mask or customize a costume in any way, to the point where it was like you could spend a day just developing,
Getting your character ready.
yeah, and just getting this amazing, having, and like, so it was a cool experience, like not being able to play D&D with my friends, and not really hanging out with those crowds as much, and not really being an online guy. Yeah, the one-on-one wrestling game is kind of like the, it's a good chess match for me, basically, just to break up projects, or take a little break. But yeah, I don't game anymore. I feel like I have my career to thank. Like I have giving it up. I can. The success I have in my career right now is all due to the fact that I stopped gaming, I think.
Yeah, see, that's interesting that even your editor would tell you, "Hey, stay away from the box," because you know, I mean, they probably had experienced it more than once. And I was just thinking, when you guys were started this conversation, how many of us read as many comic books as we used to when we were not professionals?
Yeah, it's literally thinking the exact same thing.
How many gamers or game designers or game artists actually keep track of playing all the games they receive in their mail or something? I mean, and after a while, it's not that it kills the magic. It's just that you just don't have the time. Like Daniel said, you don't have the time.
I know things are sad when I get a publisher send me comps of a book I've done a cover for, and I don't even read it. And I sit there and I think, 10-year-old Mike would be so disappointed that 45-year-old Mike couldn't give a shit. He just basically got a comp in the mail and didn't read the comic that he had the cover on. Like, that seems like an honor. Shouldn't you sit down and give the book the respect it deserves by the fact that you gave it the cover? But I have this internal dialogue around it, and I get really like, damn it, like, what's wrong with me? I'm slipping away. I'm slipping away from that joy and the passion.
Just like the rest of us.
And then you're signing your cover, and then people start asking you about the story of the book.
Yes.
You're like, I couldn't even tell you.
It's sad. It makes me feel kind of jaded, and I don't know, just spoiled, I guess. Like, but it's a strange thing. Like, you go into a period sometimes where you do a lot of covers in a row, and then really, for me, it's just my house filling up with boxes of stuff that I have to sign and mail to CGC or things like that. I don't have a lot of space to work with, so I don't read the comics. Usually, like, I usually have read the comic in PDF form before I even start the job, if I'm lucky, or I get a chance to speak to the creator and get a starting point, or get a sense of a feeling or a mood they want for the cover, whatever. If I'm lucky, I get those experiences. Very often.
How often does that happen, though? That's
not very often. If I ask for it, sometimes it depends on the creator. Like if I know the art director well and they want me to do the cover, I'll say, like, well, what does so and so who wrote the book want? Like, do they have an idea they'd like to see? And that can go both ways. That can be a good thing, or it can be a bad thing. And they can change their mind a lot too after they see the thing that you drew that they wanted, and they realize, no, it's actually not what I wanted. So I kind of would have been better off just doing my own sometimes. But I do enjoy the feedback aspect of it, and I find it really helpful sometimes. It's just neat to see how the creator's mind works, and I'm playing with their toys. I'm playing in their toy box, so I want to make sure I treat things the right way. And so if I can have the experience of of speaking with the creator on it, I will, for sure. It doesn't always happen.
I think it's really an interesting thing over there, because first, the thing that gets me the most is that for the first time in the longest time, I'm actually the gamer guy in the squad over here, because I won't lie to you, some people are hardcore with gaming. Like, with me, I think there's like a couple franchises. Like, I mean, there's God of War, there's Assassin's Creed, and like, if there's a superhero game, then I'll give it a go if I can get a copy, But that's like way after you find it, like in there's this place here in South Africa called Cash Converters, where it's like sort of like a chain store of pawn shops, PAWN. And like that's the interest, but people get hardcore with gaming. Like, it's insane. It's really, really insane. So what do you guys think about the culture now of gaming streamers? Like, where people sit and watch other people just playing games.
Oh yeah, man.
That's
so many
so
of them
weird.
might be artists and they will never achieve anything because they get sucked in, and it's their loss.
Yeah, it's weird, man. Like I don't spend a lot of time on Twitch, but when I go, I'm always like, it's just people watching other people play video games. Like I want to watch Dan Govar and Tony Moy paint. Like I want to go and watch that stuff. Like
We're entering the Vickers century.
yeah, I think so.
But
Yeah.
once
It's kind of funny. Yeah. I don't even want to get into the whole voyeuristic aspect of that. I have
Oh, you
friends
mean
that do it,
OnlyFans?
and that that
No,
too.
no,
I mean,
no,
I have
please,
friends that
please,
do
please.
that, and they
Please
make
get
lots of
into it,
money
get
doing
into
it.
it.
But it's like,
huh?
What
what you're doing
OnlyFans
is-
or playing games?
no, I mean playing games, but actually it's very similar because they're playing games wearing, like a bikini, and it's like,
Oh.
okay, I see why you're. Yeah, it's like, why are people watching you? I'm pretty sure just they want to see you excited when you
Yeah.
make a killer move or something.
Yeah, turns out
Bounce
they're
on
just
your
playing
chair.
Pong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just
No,
think it's
I-
the most interesting thing.
I can't remember what I was working on, but this was a while ago, so I think it was a big project. And somehow I found, maybe it was The Last of Us or something, and I found somebody playing a game like from start to finish on YouTube. I'm like, oh, this is great background noise because like 3/4 of this game is just walking, so I don't have to
Pretty
pay
much.
attention to it. It's like ambient noise.
You know what's scary? That video probably got more views than most of the stuff that I put out that actually has like some content in it. So yeah, that's I meant for that to sound funny, but it actually just sounded sad.
So
Oh.
what the whole video game, like basically watching someone playing video games, it reminds me of this cartoon that my son watches all the time that is absolute. I don't even remember the name of it. It's so bad though. I hate it. Every time he turns it on, I'm just like, oh my God. But then it has this like pearl of wisdom in the middle of each episode, and you never know when it's going to come up, but it's like a 5-minute little story where, like, the last one was, it explained the history of the potato chip and how the potato chip came to be and why we have potato chips now. And I was like, okay, that was the only thing worthwhile in this show, and I had to go through all of this garbage to get to that one point. And it's like, can they have just condensed it to the 5 minutes, and I would have been way happier.
And it's like, who are the adults in charge of this show?
Exactly. It's like,
Well, and that's the thing. They know that by being educational like this, in a way, that's what they get paid for. So
Right. But I remember as a kid, like all that educational moral stuff, I never absorbed any of it.
oh,
Like, when you watch a show when you're an adult now, you watch a cartoon and you're like, oh, this show is a lot more like about, reduce, reuse, recycling, and like.
are you talking about like
Yeah,
the end of He-Man or Brave Star, where they were
No,
teaching
well,
you stuff?
I remember years ago I watched Tiny Toons. You remember that show?
I
Yeah.
loved
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah, but then I didn't realize that there were like morals and stuff until I
Oh,
went
yeah.
back and watched an episode. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Did you get any of that when you were a kid? Yeah.
Absolutely not. No, I
Yeah.
just wanted to see like the cartoon violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best. Come on.
Yeah, it is the best part. So like the like I wonder if your son notices that little nugget of wisdom, or if he would be like me and just throws it out of my
No, but
brain.
every once in a while he'll like throw out something, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you got that. And it's usually from the cartoon ones.
Did you
or,
know,
I'm sorry,
Daddy? Daddy, did you know how potato chips were made?
No, not at all. I had no idea. That was the thing. I actually got something from it. It was probably I was like, huh. So it was all because there was an unhappy customer. Yeah.
Oh,
Somebody
you
cooked
gotta find out
potatoes
what show
wrong.
this is.
Yeah, you what? You know this? You know the cartoon? Don't
No,
be-
I gotta
Many-
find out what this is.
How many
Yeah.
how many of those kids that watched Blue's Clues are gonna become the greatest detective?
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. I
You
owe
know,
it all
I'm
the
not-
Blue's Clues.
I'm-
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie. Like cartoons today are just not the same. You know, like I'm inclined to say that cartoons today are crappy, but then I go back and I watch some of like the 80s stuff, the 90s stuff that I grew up with, and I'm like, wait, I remember this being a lot better than this. You know, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, don't watch the Dark Crystal or like no. That one's actually not that bad. The one that was really bad was Never Ending Story. You have to be
Oh.
like 5 years old to
Yeah,
actually.
man. It
Yeah.
didn't hold up for me either when I watched that.
That
I
was
so
so
sad.
bad. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know that Chuck Norris cartoon was actually not bad.
Yeah.
What? Chuck Norris cartoon?
The Mr. T cartoon, I get the theme for that stuck in my head sometimes. It's so strange. It's a weird random thing.
Which one?
The Mr. T cartoon.
Oh,
oh yeah.
Oh, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm not going to indulge you by singing it, but yeah, it's
Yeah, you are.
put a link on the YouTube video at the end of the session.
I want to hear
No,
those
no, no,
dulcet tones. Yeah.
Yes, man. But like honestly speaking, like after the whole Revelations thing, we were talking about it the other month, Masters of the Universe Revelations, and like everyone was like shitting all over it. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me go back and have a look at He-Man and see what it was supposed to be. And I remember He-Man very differently. I remember He-Man very, very differently. And I'm like, yes, like, did I literally spend all that time watching this thing just to hear him go, by the power of Grayskull?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Is that-
Yeah, that's all anybody
It
cares.
might also be that you liked very muscular men, maybe.
Yeah. That or
Yeah.
his haircut.
And the haircut. Oh my god, the haircut. Yeah,
It's mainly the haircut, to be honest. It's mainly the
Bowl
haircut.
cut, man.
Because unfortunately the recession is happening over here on my forehead, and it's not working out nicely for anyone. So mainly that. But no, it's
You guys-
crazy, man.
You've seen the cartoons that made us, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cartoons that made us. I know the toys
No, I
that made
don't
us.
think so.
It's
The toys
it's
that made
the
us.
Net-
Yeah.
the-
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. And
seen
the
the
Netflix
movies.
show, and it was really interesting to see the creator of He-Man, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's got that haircut. He's literally- it was like the first thought I had. It was like, what? That's where it came from.
Yeah.
But what's even over there too, it just goes to show how gullible we really are, because He-Man was just really a glorified toy, and everything was just about selling toys. And they put it at the end of it, like, you know what? I learned something today. It's like, what? What?
Yeah. That was lame. I mean, I caught the Masters of the Universe at a time when I already had got the bug for anime. So to me, the way the stories unfolded in the Masters of the Universe, in the Brave Star show, in all those Western countries animation shows was boring as hell. I was like, oh my god. For example, there's a show, I don't know if it aired in the US or if people are familiar with, but in the 80s there was that anime called Space Adventure Cobra.
What?
Yeah, that one is just mind-blowing, and it's still in many regards in animation, it still stands in terms of performance, what they were able to do with just paper and a camera over those animation cells and stuff. It's a guy, he's a smuggler, he's a pirate, but he's got a heart of gold. He's teaming up with an android lady, and he's got a weapon that is pretty unique. Except there's a guy in the show that shows up that has a similar weapon at some point, but there's not too many of them. And this weapon is that he's got a gun buried in his forearm. His forearm is actually a laser gun. And it's a laser gun that doesn't need ammo because it generates energy. His brain generates energy that he can bend to his will, so he doesn't have to shoot straight. He can shoot on an angle and he can still hit the target. And
Nice.
it sounds stupid at first, but
What is
man,
this, Wanted?
I'm like, when you said that, this guy's got a tool and he's got a weapon, I just went back to those people with the radioactive Viagra from China, because this is like an anime. I'm like, what?
No,
sorry,
it's
Stephan,
a really really good show. It's got a lot of references to Star Wars. They actually managed back in the days. They managed to hide Han Solo, Chewbacca, stormtroopers, the pattern in the corridors of the Death Star. Those interrupted Morse lines of a light. In the hallways of the Death Star, they have tunnels filled with those, and the concept is just amazing. The storyline kind of gets weak in the end, but there's a whole set of 4 episodes that revolves around a game that's kind of like Rollerball, the movie Rollerball with James Caan. That is really worth watching, and that show is from the 80s, and it was brilliant. If you can find them on YouTube, actually. I think the TMS, the studio, has them for free access, and it's an amazing show. It's an amazing show. And I was watching this, so watching Masters of the Universe, I was like, is that for an audience that's younger than me? Because I'm like, I never got a hold of the show. Now the toys, that was a different story, because for what they were, as excessive as they were proportion wise, and a mishmash of metal and flesh and stuff, for the time they were really well crafted.
Oh yeah.
They were really well crafted. I mean, the tiger, except the fact that he was green, was a model. The prototype was actually used for another Mattel toy line, which was called Big Jim.
Yep.
There was a Big Jim toy that had a safari set, and the tiger had the right colors, and it was just gorgeous. I mean, the sculpt is just amazing. That pickle green is kind of like killing it, but
Or making it more awesome.
or
Depending
make
on
it
who
more
you're
awesome.
talking
Or make it more awesome. Yeah, depending on where you're coming from. No, I totally respect that. Yeah.
I remember they used the same sculpt for Skeletors. They just put that kind of purple fleck felt on them, and it's a brilliant sculpt though. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We used a lot of that Big Jim stuff actually. A couple of little things got reworked into that, I think. But yeah, love the story around He-Man. It's great. I love all the concept drawings, and it's a cool story.
And some of the toy designs were just and the promotional art by Earl Norm was just amazing.
And the mini comics too. I mean, drawn by Alcala and a young
Oh,
Mark
yeah.
Era, and the comics were such a huge part of it. I always wish they would print them comic book size, but then I love that they have that hardcover book. I have it somewhere around here, that big thick Dark Horse hardcover book that's collects all the mini comics. And I mean, there's Bruce Timm work in there. There's just sensational stuff, like mind-blowing stuff in that book. And some really terrible stuff
it's
too.
funny because Paul Dini actually wrote a few episodes of a few scripts. That was among his first gigs.
Yep.
Wow.
For me, like what you guys have to read. DC recently did, well, not recently, like I think late 2010s, or somewhere around there. They did a whole like He-Man thing, and it built up to, what was the thing called? The Eternity War, and like just to build up to that, like from that, for like I downloaded this omnibus the other day. And I won't lie, like, you know what, if these guys were to do the movie like that, or if they just were to do like the new series based on that series, like that particular comic series, it is epic.
Yeah, the covers were pretty gorgeous by Dave Wilkins. I think he was doing the covers. Those were.
No, it was like it was just badass to the freaking board, man. And the mythos made sense. Like they were just like so well laid and stuff up there.
The new Masters of the Universe, the new animated show. I think it's on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The storyline actually makes sense now. It's actually really well crafted. It doesn't have the charm of the old show.
I like that's how the bar is set. It actually makes sense now.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, you know, it's not hard seeing where they were coming from,
Right.
but they well, I think Kevin Smith is part of the
Yeah.
part of
Yeah,
the
he's the
company.
writer. Yeah.
That sorry, multitasking is difficult. Again, like I enjoyed it for like for what it was. There's certain things I would have liked to have seen, like done slightly differently. But like I mean, there's still part 2 coming. So, but like Kevin Smith just got so much of flack for it because he just
Oh, yeah.
executed it. You know what I mean? One thing that I don't understand about like I mean, speaking as a fan, but like with toxic fanboys now, I'm like, we are all aware of the concept of the multiverse, the notion of that there. So I'm like, why guys get like really, really upset about things now that, oh no, it's not true to what I know. I'm like, boss, it's just an entry in the multiverse. It's fine.
Yeah.
Be cool. Be cool,
That's
bro.
how I get past
It's not
those.
hurt.
I just put myself in like it's a multiverse. Like if I'm not enjoying how a character is being treated by a reboot or by a new director's vision, I just it's just a comic it's a comic book at that point. It's just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't have
And-
to,
and you
I can
know-
go on. Like if you want me to, I can go on with hatred about some stuff that, like some real fiery magma of hate against some stuff that
Well,
I don't
and-
like in film. But I'm not going to because like people love Thor Ragnarok, and why should I ruin their day?
And that's the thing. That's the thing. We were practicing the multiverse as a reader.
Yep.
Before we knew it had a name.
Right. But
I mean, when you realize that the Peter Parker you grew up with was not the same one. To me, for example, when the turn happened in the 90s, when I kind of like stopped following, like I missed the whole Todd McFarlane craze about Spider-Man and stuff like I was so far away from all of this. So when Spider-Man became something, basically when Spider-Man even started to have a mullet, I was not reading the book. No, but that's just to give you an idea. I was not reading the book.
multiverse.
But then that's the thing. Yeah, the Scarlet Spider, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I guess there's a need for a Spider-Man for each generation, and that's not mine. And then you run into a story arc that you like. You're like, oh wait, okay, I know this is not a Spider-Man I grew up with, but I'm taking it as a new slate, a fresh take,
Yep.
and I'm just diving in the story. We were practicing the multiverse before we even,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Before it became cool.
yeah,
We knew the
no,
multiverse
basically,
before it became cool. We were pioneers, y'all. We were pioneers.
we're OGs.
I don't know. But I would find, I don't know if kudos to you guys for doing that, but I can't, if I see a movie of a character or a property that I've been waiting for since I was a kid, and then I
Yeah.
see it and it's disappointing, then like it's kind of like you had one chance to really do this and you guys did this to this story or this character.
Yeah, but that's the key
Why?
point. What is really doing this? What?
Yeah.
It's going to be different for everybody. Really doing this the way
Right.
one expects. Of course it's going to be different for everybody. So I
hope
think
Well, I feel
hope
like
that we get to
the best
experience one
example.
good. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go on,
I
Mike.
was just gonna say, I hope before it's all over and said and done, we get to experience at least one good Fantastic Four movie before I die.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that-
Yeah,
yeah.
actually, that's a
I'd
good
love to see
example.
the thing done properly on film.
Yeah.
Not that I hated the Michael Chiklis stuff. It wasn't actually the worst part of those movies, and I thought it was going to be for me. And I just wish people would get the real core characters, Fantastic Four and Doom, get them understood, get them displayed the way they ought to be displayed. In a
yeah.
way that
They're
you know-
walking a very thin line, a tricky path because it's a family, and to
Well,
a
it's the
majority
first one.
and to a majority of people, they would go like, "Oh man, there's nothing more boring than a family."
Yeah.
And to others, it would be the opposite. It's like, "Oh no, wait, the most interesting drama comes from families."
Mhm.
So
And
it
then
depends
listen to you.
It all depends on how it's written at the end of the day, not so much
Yeah.
the designs, because somebody was mentioning earlier Ragnarok. It's
Yeah.
not my Thor. it's not my Thor, but I love the movie.
I
Yeah.
do too.
Right.
I find it. Well, number one, I'm a fan of whatever Taika Waititi does.
Yeah.
What we do in the shadows, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I love his movies too. Yeah, my problem with the movie, with that Thor movie, was that they took the best parts of one of the best Hulk comics ever made,
Yeah.
and made a
Yes.
Thor comedy movie with it. Like, it
Yeah.
didn't have to be a comedy movie. It didn't have to be. They didn't have to basically pillage the Planet
Yeah.
Hulk story, which is like that could have been 3 movies.
No,
You
but
know,
that
oh, yeah.
but that's
World,
that's
yeah.
the
Didn't
thing.
have-
But that's the
yeah.
thing. They were stuck with the work of lawyers and with legal
for sure,
restraints.
for sure. Yeah.
So of course
Oh, yeah.
we know we're never gonna get a Hulk story arc in our lifetimes
Yeah.
made by Marvel, because they're stuck with selling this at a time where it was more convenient for them to do that, because they were trying to get a foot in the door, and now they're stuck with it. They're see how much and how hard it is for them to get the Fantastic Four back.
Oh, I know.
So if a
Just
franchise
look at
had,
what's happening with Spider-Man.
yeah, but you know what? The Fantastic Four has been such a failure that it might be easier to get back into the Marvel basket. The ones that are successful, it's going to be trickier, because the ones who are making it a success, who have made it a success, they want to hold on to it, and they'll do whatever they can. So unless Disney buys them out and absorbs them, that's, you know, it's going to be and I mean, the combo of Mark Ruffalo and the Hulk is a win-win, in my opinion. I love what they did. Not so much when they try to humanize him on the designs. Like, for example, the look he has on Ragnarok, I think for some reason either they didn't get the right guy to design or to approve the designs, but the features, the face features on the Hulk in this one are, it looks like he's had slight plastic surgery on the nose and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not as they were between it's a transitional state where they wanted to step away from the brutish features with a heavy eyebrow and stuff, and preparing for the smart Hulk for Endgame. But
He looked a bit too much like a pop star. Yeah, he was very polished and smooth face.
yeah,
like,
it was actually this is the one that's, to me, that is the closest to what it was in the Ang Lee movie, where they were trying to give him baby eyes or cute eyes, a cute nose and stuff. I like the brutish Hulk the way it was in the first and second movie. I really like what they did.
Which the first and second one?
Avengers.
Avengers?
Avengers.
Oh.
Yeah. Avengers and Age of Ultron. Yeah. That's actually the photos I used for my sculpt when I did my mask. That I was constantly referring to those, because those are, to me, the best versions you can get.
But in terms of designs and movies that we didn't like, at least we didn't get a Superman Nicolas Cage.
Oh,
my
yes.
Oh,
Oh yes. Thank you for
there's a
bringing.
multiverse. It would have been a tragedy of biblical proportions.
Now the thing,
Yeah.
the thing about the visual, about the costumes and the visual designs, like when the costume is lit up and everything, that would have been interesting to see.
But
no.
was that like his actual Superman costume, or is that like,
Well, it was transitional. It was transitional costumes when he was restoring himself, when he's dead, and then he's regenerating and stuff. He had like 3 or 4 different suits that were kind of like the aliens in the abyss. So it was running all around the suit. It was ran by LEDs that were popping, flickering, running all around. For the time, it was an achievement. It was just impressive, the effort they put in that, and that would have looked awesome in the movie. Now the receding hairline, the long hair, I'm sorry, I love Nicolas Cage performance.
It's so bad.
But the long face, he's got a long, thin features, like the thin nose, the big blue eyes, the baby blue eyes, the thin chin and stuff. He would be more 20, 30 years from now. He would have been a great. If he was smiling a little bit more, he could have been a decent Joker.
Yeah,
But
it's
not
hard for me to give
but
him the
not a
benefit
Superman.
of the doubt.
He
to be-
he always looks slightly
No.
drugged to me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, he's always high. Yeah, he
I
always
think
looks
that Harvey
high.
Dent actually, yeah.
Harvey Dent. He would have been.
There's
Yeah.
that kind of manic craziness about him that he can
Yes,
have
yes, he
from
would have
time
been a
to time.
greater Harvey Dent for sure. And he's got the
No,
voice too.
Mad Hatter. He could have been the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, but you know what?
Yes, I'd vote him.
He could have been the man.
But the Two-Face character, based on the Batman animated version,
Yeah, that's the one.
because he's got those
That's the one.
features and he's got the voice. He's got the voice.
Well, if it
I would
happens,
still
he
watch it though.
probably would.
he
How
was
are we all
awesome in
feeling
Crudes.
about Suicide Squad? Sorry. You were saying?
I was just
Awesome,
saying,
yeah.
Nicolas Cage was amazing in Crudes. Meet the Crudes. The
Oh yeah, that's right. He was doing a voice.
yeah, he was the dad. He was
the
awesome.
dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, don't get us started on Suicide Squad, man.
I never saw it. I didn't even have a desire.
I haven't seen the first one either. I don't know. I haven't actually seen
I
a lot
would
of
say
things.
the second one is a very big improvement from the first one.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a
but
fun
still.
movie.
That's sharp.
Having
fun.
saw the first one, that was there's only one place to go, and that's up.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like the quality of the first one, I don't think it should turn you off, because it's like a completely different movie.
Sure. Yeah.
Like obviously the director is different, right, and the tone is different. Like even just if you're just take screenshots of everything, the visual is different.
Hmm.
So if you want to just even go for the visuals and I don't know, camera and all that other composition, cinematography, that kind of stuff, then it's a lot better than the first one.
Yeah, the violence though, I was like, okay, enough. We get it. It's not even as I like that in terms of movies like that with a violent aspect to it. I like Deadpool better.
Because tonally I feel like the violence in Deadpool is probably a little more appropriate. You know what I mean? As over the top as it could be.
Yeah. Now I know what you mean.
It fits the character.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like
Deadpool.
tongue in cheek 90% of the time. So
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Which brings it brings a filter between the audience and what's actually happening. There's a
Right.
moment. There's a few moments in the latest Suicide Squad movie where you lose that. You don't even have the time to process that there's no filter. That it's just in your face. That would have been. It's almost made like it was intended to be a 3D movie when King Shark splits open a guy in two and you can see the spine and everything. You expect blood driplets to hit the camera or hit your goggles if you're watching it in 3D. Except it's not. It's not a 3D movie.
How do you guys feel about 3D movies?
I can't do
I'm over it now, eh? I'm over it.
Yeah.
I was never into it.
Especially when like the character starts like pointing at the lens for no real reason, or like just things start flying towards
You know,
the camera.
that's the kind of effects that should be reserved to the Fast and Furious movies. That's it.
Ugh, let's